Good Morning Africa live on Cnetv. We have been able to do a lot this morning, and it's a beautiful morning and a beautiful new month. We have been able to look at different headlines for today, trending headlines and interesting headlines to help you stay updated about what is really happening in this ecosystem. So at this juncture, I'll be welcoming our guest for today. So we have a guest who's going to help us talk about some of these headlines that we have here today. So we have with us Jadel Chidi, who is the founder of CryptoCrypts and the Blockchain League community. He's joining us from Abuja. You are welcome, Jadel.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me this morning.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. Happy New Month to you. And how are you doing this new month?
Thank you so much. Happy New Month to you as well. I'm doing very well. Interesting. This month happens to be my birthday.
Wow, that's very, very, very good. So we'll be waiting for the birthday cake then this month.
Yeah, I'll probably go to the studio to celebrate with you guys. Hopefully.
Are you coming to Lagos or Abuja?
Abuja, of course.
Our headquarters is in Lagos, so no problem. So once you get to our branch office, branch studio in Abuja, they will send it down to us. So thank you very much once again for joining us. So we'll be having amazing conversations this morning. So ranging from Russia, we're open to Bitcoin crypto for international payment, to crypto banking rules now due this year from Basel community, to wave skyrockets as details of DeFi revival plan unveiled, as it's still down 85% from all-time high. We looked at a researcher's avatar was sexually assaulted on the Metaverse platform owned by Meta, making her the latest victim of sexual abuse on Meta's platforms. Adaverse backs Cassava Networks with a seed investment to empower African content creators. With Terra 2.0, it's by Ago on stablecoin. We also looked at fresh gains push Bitcoin back into the world's top 10 most valuable asset as crypto market cap, still the world's 10th largest asset by market valuation. So we couldn't go deep on the headline. Lebanese pound exchange rate against dollar plunges to all-time low. So that's it. Let's start with Terra. We are seeing what is happening in the Terra. It has really affected the entire crypto space. So what's your take generally on the Terra ecosystem? What's really happened with Terra?
All right, so of course, Terra came out. I can't remember actually the time they launched their mainnet. Well, I know I got some Terra Luna sometime last year, and I exited before the crash. But you agree with me that Terra Luna had they actually came up with an experiment that hasn't been tried in space before now. Looking at the UST stablecoin algorithm that is actually based on or backed by algorithm. Unlike you have USDT or USD that is backed by the US dollar. So it was actually an experiment, that hasn't been tried before. And of course, you also agree with me that the cryptocurrency is still a new technology the blockchain technology is still a new ecosystem. It's still a new technology that is being groomed. It's just barely 13 years old, the entire industry. So nobody knows, the current projects that are going to stand the test of the next bear run. So of course, we've seen from 2017 to 2018 up to this point that not all of the projects that were on CoinMarketCap still do exist today. A lot of them fizzled out. So having that in mind, you agree that not every project is going to make it throughout the whole cryptocurrency cycle. So but citing what has happened with Terra Luna, it was actually, even Dokon, has been talking, or he has been in the public space, just trying to sum up some confidence. I mean, if whatever you're building, if you're building a project, the least thing you want to be is talk down on what you're building. You want to put out every vibe, every positive vibe out there, so that, I mean, people who are buying into your projects, your investors, your community will get to believe, and know that, man, this guy who is heading this project is a visionary, So he doesn't know, he never knew entirely that the Terra 1.0 was going to fail. And I mean, not everyone believed it was going to fail, because at the peak of the market, it got an all-time high of I think it was around $150 thereabout, but good enough for me, I hesitated when it was $69, because there's this community where there's a community where everyone in the community I belong to, where everyone in the community trades futures, and somebody in the community who happens to be the community lead, was saying in one of the meetings we had that from what he was seeing in the market, that Luna was going to, come back down to less than $20. Not everyone believed him at that point, but at that point it was still trading around at about $69, and that was the point where I hesitated. But then no one anticipated that it was going to go below. I mean, it crashed. That's just the word for it. A coin that traded for an all-time high of $150, coming back down to less than a cent. So the best word to describe that is it crashed. So but then, like I said, the whole Terra Luna ecosystem, being paired with UST, was all an experiment beyond what we have seen with other projects in the ecosystem, in the cryptocurrency ecosystem. So well, for me as an investor, from my experience, I'm not going to point accusing fingers to Dokon, unlike what lots of folks are doing on Twitter, because like I said, the space is still a very young industry. So nobody knows if whatever they are building is actually going to stand, until the next cycle, So, but we just have this faith that we are building what should be able to stand, regardless of what happens in the market. And like what I used to talk to my community, there is almost nothing that has guarantee in life, even human life. No one knows for sure if they are going to wake up the next morning when they sleep. So with that mindset, I treat every investment I go into that way, knowing that anything can happen to this investment. So I choose to put in what I can afford to lose, and whenever I don't feel comfortable staying any longer in the market, I pull out. So all the same, the Terra Luna ecosystem was an experiment that has never been seen in this space before. So it did all it could. The Dokwan, his team, his investors and all of those that believed in the project, that worked on the project, did all they could, to keep it going, but we now saw how everything played out. Of course, they came out with Terra 2.0, right? And it did about 300% the day it was launched. And the last time I checked about it, it came back down to minus 70%. But of course, what do you expect? That's the way things work in life. There is nothing that goes up and keeps going and never comes back down, especially when it comes to do the financial market, and when it comes to cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is a speculative market. No one knows for sure, regardless of how much you can predict with your charts, with your TAs and your FAs, anything can happen. Even when you're seeing that things might play out the way you assume, and we've seen cases like that, and anything can happen, and all of a sudden it start going back, opposite direction, so I expected Terra 2.0 to drop back down, the way it did, because that's part of the market nature, but if projects like Dogecoin, can still be in the market, if projects like the whole of if you look at the whole of meme tokens, that had lots of playground,
Shiba and all the rest.
Yeah. So if you look at what they did in the last bull run, between 2020, late 2020 into 2021, and some of them are still in the market, and one thing that amazes me about Dogecoin is Dogecoin has been in the market, I think, since 2013, even though it's a meme token. But one thing that you can take away from Dogecoin, which is supposed to serve as a lesson to every project, is the unity in the community. I used to tell people something, and regardless of whatever you're building, no matter what it promises to offer to the users, one thing you should invest in is community. If you have a strong community, whatever it is you're building, you have some sort of guarantee that what you're building, has a strong user base, have people who believe in it, and they will go all the way out to stand with you regardless of what happens. So I think one of the things that Terra Luna needs to do at this point is not to focus on Terra 2.0 that they've come up with, because lots of people are already calling it a Ponzi scheme. So what they need to do at this point is to find a way to compensate their community handsomely, and also take advantage to build on a strong community. I think if any project can do that, if you look at projects that are strong today, look at BTC, look at Ethereum. These projects have strong community, base, and if you look at what actually gives a project, or what gives a token or a coin the value it has, is actually the community, the user base.
Yes.
No community that believes in any project, there is, no matter, regardless of what they've built, no matter how beautiful, what that project, promises.
Jadel, sorry, let's talk about, you say this is an experiment. So do you think this experiment, isn't it an expensive experiment by Luna, using investors' money? Isn't that expensive?
Yeah, of course, it's very expensive. I wouldn't know why they choose to use investors' money to try out this kind of experiment, but it's glaring to everyone's face that it was a very, very expensive experiment. I wished they were able to carry out this experiment with their funds, with the funds of their investors, and let their investors know that, see, we don't want to go public yet, because this is the first of its kind. So we just want to do it the way we can, within us, with our funds, and see how far we can go, and look at, and try as much as possible to look if there will be loopholes, along the line, and be able to fix them just like we had, even though there were so many stories that came up why that happened, which of course the parties involved came out to deny, but in answering your question, it was very expensive experiment. They shouldn't have used investors' money, especially the community that never had any affiliation with them. Community that just wanted play the crypto and make some money from it. I know lots. In fact, I even have a few persons in my community that lost money in that crash. So that was pretty much an expensive experiment.
Interesting. Yeah, thank you very much. So let's look at Duquan. He has really had character issues, I must say. Some persons have sometimes he talks down on other projects before this crash. and even most especially to competitors. Do you think the community, most especially on Twitter or other places, Reddit, that are lashing back at him? Do you think it's mostly because of the way he has been talking down on projects?
Yes, absolutely it is, because when you're in a public space and all you do is to lash at people, talk bad about projects, and you just want everybody to feel you're the one that has the whole solution to whatever it is that the space needs. Everyone will be waiting for the right opportunity to counsel. That's just what happened. Whenever I look at some of his posts and some of his arguments, he reminds me of Charles Hoskinson, the owner of
Cardano.
Yeah, he used to be that way. He used to, especially he has always been that way. A little bit of controversies, trying to. But what he does most times, what Charles does, is he lashes out at people who comes after him. But Doke One just tries to lash out at people, regardless of your perception about his project, and I think that was when the crash happened. It served the community, the Twitter community, the opportunity to lash back at him. And lately I've been seeing lots of posts from people who are calling out the government to come after him, and probably prosecute him. I wouldn't know if that's going to happen eventually, but cryptocurrency is not fully regulated yet. No country has actually come up with a fully regulated structure to regulate cryptocurrencies, and until that happens, that will be when we should start seeing measures taken on some of these projects that are tagged as Ponzi schemes in the space. But I mean, he should have expected people to lash back at him, during this crash.
Okay, talking about regulations, I know while all this is happening, we have not really heard anything from regulators or any arrest or anything from any government. You made mention about that briefly. Do you see that happening very soon?
You mean regulations, right?
No, not regulations, about him being apprehended, the project being queried for what really happened by regulators.
Oh,
you see that happening soon?
Okay. Like I said, since there is no there's almost no country in the world right now that has a structure that regulates cryptocurrencies. I'm not sure, even though that is what lots of people want, especially those who are coming after him on Twitter. But I'm not certain that is going to happen pretty soon. Is it going to happen? Probably. But I'm not sure how soon that will happen.
Okay, let's look at, with all this that has really happened, let's look at the future of Luna. How do you see the future of Luna with all this that has happened? Are we going to see a bright future?
Oh yeah, so there are still quite lots of persons who still want to take the risk to put some money in Luna. There are lots of persons who are still interested to just play the gamble game. I call it the gamble game. So of course, looking at what's happened, the rise in price that happened with Luna 1.0, lots of persons still feel that Luna entirely is still going to come back up. I mean, at some point in the life, of everyone, or every business or every project, there will be times where you're going to face challenges. It now depends on how you're able to handle that. So this is one, that has just hit Luna, and I believe the only thing that they lost, of course, they lost money, and one other thing that they lost, which is very, very key, is the trust of many persons, so what they need to do, like I said, they need to do as they need to put out much campaign and much compensation, to community members, especially those who lost significant amount of funds, in the crash. So they need to do all they can to regain the trust of the common investor, not those that backed them up. Now I'm talking about investors that don't have any form of connection with them apart from going to the market or buying them. Yeah, so they need to regain the trust of these people. If they can do that over time, I know they wouldn't want to be known as a project that crashed and never recovered back. No one will want to be known for that. So I know they want to do what they can. The developers, the team, the core team, the investors and all of that. They want to do everything in their powers to make sure Luna succeeds again. But the one thing they need to fix as soon as possible is the trust of the common investors, the trust they had for them. So if they can build that back over time, they will have more people who will believe in the project that will want to, risk their funds for that. I mean, what we do in this space is risking funds. So who don't want to do that? They already had a good track record apart from what happened with the crash, which actually, took them by surprise. But that crash happened in less than 78 hours, So no one anticipated that. But if they can do everything in their powers to build back the trust they lost, because that is, apart from the money they lost, of course, they lost the trust of the common investor. If they can do everything in their powers to regain that back up, I believe because they won't come back. I'm not sure what they've come back. They want to mess up again. So they want to do everything in their powers to make sure that they build a strong project, regardless of what happens in the market. Their project should be able to stand the crash, the crypto price pullbacks, So what they need to do at this point is build back the trust that they've lost. So if they can do that, I believe their project is going to gain back the strength, the belief, and of course the funds, the investments from new monies, from institutions, and of course from people who want to be willing to try it again.
Okay, interesting. Let's still on Terra. Let's look one more thing on Terra. We saw when this was playing out, when it was playing out, we saw that Dupont, the CEO of Terra, and the Terra itself really enjoyed support from the community and also big projects in the industry, both exchanges and other projects in the crypto space. Do you think that support was because of the community or the relationship those projects have with with Dupont, or because it really affected the crypto market?
Oh yes, so I'm not sure there's any project that has had this that has witnessed this kind of crash, since the inception of the crypto space. It happened, in a quick, a blink of an eye. So I think the support the Luna team got from the different parties, that reached out to support was needed. Even though I know they would have their personal they would have had some sort of benefits, from it. Probably, maybe they invested at the early stage, and of course. But let me speak from the stance of Binance. You agree with me that Binance, of course, they are one of the big supporters, of Luna. So coming to support Luna at this point was needed. You wouldn't want. There's no sane investor that would have some level of assistance to give to show support, and wouldn't want to do that, So you wouldn't want, if you're doing a project and something happens and you see it going down, you want to do everything, within your powers to make sure it comes back up. So that was, quite expected from Binance, and of course, regardless of being one of the investors, they also had users that had funds in Luna. So it was expected that they would show up and show every support to Luna, so that people, one, they will be able to stay in the market, and two, people will still be able to want to somehow bring money back into the system, and also be able to some way have this hope that they will be able to recover their lost funds. So the support they got from the different parties was expected, and it goes a long way to show that we all need each other in this space. So I think that was expected, even though, like I said earlier on, I know that they would have had some personal benefits that they don't necessarily need to come and start telling us, but you and I know that somehow, some way, they had their interest, to also protect.
Yes, because one would have expected that Terra or Luna be delisted by these major exchanges, but I can't really cite a project that have done this, that they delisted. But I could see in the case of SRP, that's Repo, when they were facing lawsuits, which the lawsuit is still ongoing from the SEC, US SEC. We saw a lot of exchanges delisting SRP. Maybe it's because they are afraid of the regulators. But this one would have expected some delisting from the crypto exchange, but that didn't happen. But we saw a lot of support. Like he rightly said, maybe there may be some hidden interest from those projects, because we know Binance is also an investor in that particular project. So let's see how this plays out. So we'll be going for a short break, still on the show Good Morning Africa. We'll be going for a short break. When we return, we continue with our conversation with our guest. Do not go anywhere. We will be right back. I know you briefly mentioned about some project leaving the shores of Nigeria because of this regulation. So I want you to, how do you see the future of crypto startups with these new regulations? That was February last year, when the Central Bank of Nigeria prohibited financial companies and banks, financial institutions and banks from providing financial services to crypto companies. And we saw a lot of projects leaving the shores of Nigeria. What do you see happening here? There are going to be a lot of them leaving.
Yeah, thank you. So if this current document that has been released is not addressed, if the concerns of the players is not addressed at this point, over time, lots of startups are going to look for a safe haven, and that will mean leaving, the country into looking for a better environment, or a more friendly environment to operate. So obviously that is going to happen if our concerns, are not addressed, but we hope, it is going to be addressed, as soon as possible. But in a situation where that doesn't happen, over time, you will see lots of startups, changing ways. So that's what is going to happen eventually if the concerns that have been raised, by the players is not being addressed by the SEC.
Okay, thank you very much. That's how far we can go.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be doing this with you this morning, and I look forward to more of this. Thank you again.
Thank you very much. A wonderful one there with Jadel Chi, the founder of Crypto Cribs and Lead Blockchain League community. Thank you. It has really been an amazing time out with him here. I really appreciate it. Like you said, we are much more open to seeing you coming on the show more often. Thank you very much once again.